Wow. Oh, I'm not sure what happened there, but everything just crashed. Stream died. Suddenly I look up at my comments and like the stream is done. And then Restream was unresponsive and OBS was unresponsive. Everything was done. So that's fine. Am I actually live again? Let's have a look. Okay, it says I'm back now. That's fantastic. There's nothing like having like, I don't know, what was there, 67 people, 70 people on the stream and it just absolutely cratered. That's fine. What was the question? I'll let that circulate for a minute and we'll see if we can pick up a few because we're in the middle of a good conversation. That's okay. The question was, oh, now I got to think. What was the question? It wasn't about a tool specifically. We were just on the live stream and it just crashed, cratered. Kapow, gone. I guess that happens. I guess that's the streaming world. I guess that's how these things go. Suddenly I look up and everything's down. So that's interesting. Hey, welcome back. We were just live streaming a minute ago and we're just getting fired up again because things kind of went sideways there. Not sure why. There was a question. Hey, Ricardo. Evening. Absolutely. I'm just going to go back and see if I can find, because there was one comment in the last one, was just right in the middle of the conversation here. See if I can find the comments. I'm still navigating. Welcome to, I know, right? Just like suddenly, just like, boom, you're not online anymore. And I'm not really sure why. It's a hard problem. It's really interesting because, again, one of the questions was about, we talked about just a minute ago, was somebody asked about, these automation tools for setting up SaaS backends or something like that. And, whether you should do your proof of concept on some of this stuff. And the answer is absolutely. Oh, Pearl. Yes, thank you. There was something right after Pearl. There was another question. I was trying to find the comments. I got to go digging. It's always really challenging when you're like trying to, keep talking on the live stream to keep it interesting, but also like trying to go find the question. We'll come back to it. But I don't envy. I've worked in some medium-sized systems in my experience. Oh yeah, and we'll come back to that. Examples of GPT. Thank you. I will answer that question. One of the things I find interesting though is like the scale at which an organization like TikTok, the teams that need to exist in order to facilitate live streaming, like the infrastructure around that, people have no idea about what goes on, like, getting latencies down and some of just like the effort that goes into keeping that infrastructure up. So, I complain that the stream crashed, but, somebody at TikTok or Restream or whatever happened in the middle just had a really bad moment. I have stories. I worked for an organization where I was on call when I lived in Edmonton, and they had co-located. We had a rack downtown at the Bell facility in downtown Edmonton. I don't know if it's still there. And the pager would go off at 3 in the morning. I was kind of bleary eyed, make my way downtown with my key card and my keys and be like, oh, how do I get into this building again? There's multiple checkpoints and codes and all of this stuff. And then now I'm looking at the rack. I got the rack unlocked and it's just a bunch of servers and slide the thing out and try and figure out whatever, it's so much more complicated than that nowadays. Okay, Glorified Tales asks, examples of the GPTs. So this particular person, I can't go into the details for their specific use case because I don't fully understand it, but GPTs, I haven't used this at all. Well, let's just go have a look at it. Chatgpt.com. It's like ChatGPT teams, right? And what they were doing was they would set up these teams and they would set up a custom GPT that the teams could access. and they would build out a GPT for a business trained on that business. And then they would charge a retainer to maintain that, to make sure that it was working the way it was supposed to. That was one use case. Another one that they were doing was they would do GPTs that were specific to an industry's regulations. So it might be finance or it might be something. And so if you can imagine that there's a whole team making sure that specific content that gets put out on the internet is compliant with government regulations or something like that. So they would build a GPT that understood those regulations and then license that. And again, that doesn't mean that it didn't like do anybody's job, but it did half the work. It gave them a starting point where they could run something through, and the GPT could be like, it looks like these things don't match. Maybe look in these areas, right? So those are a couple of examples of GPTs. I have to assume there's like, because they understood their industry very well, they had the ability to like really, really test those GPTs to make sure that they were performing exactly the way they were supposed to. And then they would build out these teams and then just sell subscriptions. And I think it's a brilliant idea. I mean, custom GPTs, I'm doubling down on custom GPTs in 25 because like they're just so handy and they're so easy to make. Thoughts on Zapier versus Make? They both get the job done. I don't. Zapier's been around a little bit longer, I think. Although Make used to be called Integromat, I guess. I don't know. I find Make very easy to use. It's intuitive, so I use it. But I've used Zapier too. I have clients who use Zapier. They both get the job done. Learning how to, Yari says, I'm learning how to automate my small business. Loving the lives. Awesome. That's amazing. If there's anything we missed, so our live just crashed a few minutes ago, which is fine. Happens. But I'll be uploading these onto my YouTube. We'll go for a bit because we're just chatting here. I'll be uploading these onto my YouTube tonight or tomorrow morning. So you can always go back and check it out. I know we meander a little bit. We kind of wander around. I got to figure out on YouTube how to go put, we can sort of chop them up and put those nice little sections in there. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. We'll get there. I'm still new to YouTube, the whole YouTube thing. Hey, you're welcome, Smurfy. Ricardo says, n8n is my go-to. Funny how many people use similar tools with different preferences. And I think there's some cool stuff. I've seen people do some really cool stuff in n8n. I know you can get more into RAG queries. I'm pretty sure n8n has like a chat system built right into it, right? Can't you just build a chat? Like they have this form. We just learned that on the live here half an hour ago, that you could just arbitrarily build out a form submission with n8n. And that's fantastic. I don't even know that make.com has that. And I think that's a great, we just delete this. Set up a new trigger. Do they have forms? I think you can integrate with all these different third party. But one of the things that drives me nuts about these things is like every one of these is a $20 subscription, right? So everyone, $10 here, $20 there, $10 here, and that gets frustrating. So if you can find a tool you're going to spend $20 on it and it'll do half of that stuff, fantastic. And maybe n8n has got, make.com beat in that way, in that it's already got a few of these things built in. That's pretty great. User 699944, how would you recommend getting started consulting and automations? Start within your network. Find somebody who trusts you, who you can tinker with their business so that you can get a referral and get some experience. Start small. Make sure that anything that you are making promises on, you can actually do and you know how to build. Don't make promises you can't keep, because 100% of your business success is going to be based on your relationships and your recommendations, your referrals. I don't recommend, you should probably be on TikTok, but I don't recommend you just coming arbitrarily onto TikTok and making a bunch of claims that you can't back up. Because I do see that. I'm not calling out anybody specifically. I see people come on that are, and I encourage people, get into the space, absolutely. But then I see people saying things like, did you know you could just automatically reply to all your emails with ChatGPT? And I'm like, no, don't do that. Don't recommend that. automatically draft emails, or if they're low risk emails, sure, automatically reply to. But the way I do it is, if an email comes in, I'll use ChatGPT to categorize it. I was actually working on this. Maybe that'd be a great thing to use for n8n. I wanted to have an email come in because I get a lot of emails every day. My inbox is out of control and has been for a long time. If an email came in and I wanted to send it into an agent that would just categorize it and put it in an Airtable or something, and then at the end of the day, basically had like 3 or 4 categories. One would be like urgent. If it's urgent and I need to know about that email, it would message me on Slack. But then otherwise, at the end of the day, it would just give me a list of like, hey, here's things you should probably look at, and then here's a bunch of junk. Summary, right? That would be kind of fun. But I don't recommend, like, just be mindful of the high risk stuff. Joker says, I had ChatGPT that got 10,000 chats until OpenAI didn't approve my appeal. Was it like a custom GPT? That's pretty wild. Glorified Tales, getting started with AI agents. What framework do you suggest? LangChain, Crew AI, or anything else? I use LangChain. Are you like into programming? Are you using the LangChain has like a cloud system, don't they? Is it Lang Cloud? What do they call that? Oh, this is the wrong one. I've only used LangChain a little bit. When I was getting into RAG in the beginning, I pivoted into VoiceFlow for this one system, but I was using self-querying retrievers in LangChain for a short time there. Langsmith and LangGraph. Agent control with agency. Interesting. Here's another one we're going to have to tie into and see how far we can get with it. One of the things I really enjoy, and people ask me like, hey, make.com or Zapier. You know what's really great about make.com? When I look at this scenario, it's intuitive. I understand what's happening here, right? And when I explain this to somebody, they understand intuitively what's happening here. When you start getting into these systems, we're inherently talking about complexity, right? Let's go back to one of my graphs, one of my untitled graphs. This one. Just imagine for a second that, because we're talking about workflows, right? So we've got decisions happening. We've got decisions happening in, no, we don't want that. Here, let's see if I can fix it. We've got workflows in our businesses, things that we need decisions to be made on. And each of these other things will, again, have decisions that come from them. And then there will be inputs and outputs from those different decisions, or to kick off other workflows. And so inherently, we end up with a degree of complexity in these things. And so at the end of the day, because knowing that complexity to some degree is inevitable, some degree of complexity in our systems is inevitable. I'm going to say this doesn't even go there. Let's say this goes back to here. Knowing that there's a degree of complexity that is eventual in all systems, then if we can use tools that will help us understand the complexity, again, this comes back to the two problems that every business has: the problem of change and the problem of communication. If we have very complex systems that are difficult to describe, they're going to be very hard to change. And so we have this whole industry, change management. Why do we have change management? Because the system's hard to change. So as a software engineer, that's always my first thought. How do I change this? My next thought is, if I need to change this, how do I test this? How do I know this works? These three systems are interrelated, and I need to change the one in the middle. How do I change that without these other two systems breaking? They depend on each other. And then how do we describe that? How do I hand that task off to somebody so that they can work on it? So whenever I'm thinking about which system to pick, LangChain or whatever, the reason I keep coming back to, and I'm looking at n8n pretty hard here because I'm liking it, but I like systems that are easy to understand. Not to say that Zapier is not easy to understand, but I'm always drawn to Make because it's simple and intuitive. So when I have a simple use case, I usually come back to it. That's a really long answer to a really short question. Sorry, you'll find that with me if you hang around long enough. My microphone is on and I know how to use it. Um, so I don't know if I answered that question. Glorified Tails' question was, I'm starting with AI agents. What would you recommend? I don't think I have a great answer because we're exploring some of that today. Um, there's a lot of options out there. If you understand how LangChain works, Crew AI has been mentioned again. Did we have that open? I thought we had a tab open here where we were looking at Crew AI. This is another one we should probably tie into and see what it does. Become a multi-agent expert in hours. Okay. I would have to tie into it. I don't like it when this looks very salesy, and I'm like sort of the way my brain works, use cases. That's what I want. I want to see, I don't want marketing copy. I want to see the tool. I want to see, are the buttons easy to push? Will I understand this quickly if I start? I don't want to talk to your sales team. I'm a generalist, right? So I push buttons before I read documentation. If I get stuck, I'll go look at your docs. Your docs better be clear because I'm not going to spend a lot of time there. Unfortunately, it's just the way my brain works. I can't stare at text for a very long time. I use AI to summarize things for me. Hey, break this down into 3 steps for me so I can move forward with this tool. Because that's just the way my brain works. User. How costly on average are Make.com automations that use APIs and paid modules? It depends on the complexity of the automation. So you need to keep in mind that what do you get? Make.com pricing, you get 10,000 operations on your basic paid account. Where's their pricing page? So this is important to understand once you do have a bunch of stuff. So you get 1,000 operations for free. Now keep in mind, let me pull up another scenario here, one that's got some, cancel that. Scenarios, discard. Let me see here. I got to just make that smaller for a second because I'm looking for this one, inventory pipeline, this one here. So this is a pipeline I built out to process inventory for a dealership. So if you look at the pricing for Make.com, 1,000 operations per month. I actually built this out a while ago before I understood their pricing. And I burnt through my $9 plan. It gives me 10,000 operations. I burnt through that in an afternoon, like immediately, because every one of these nodes is an operation. I think there's 23 nodes here. So then that's 23. So you can just do the math really quickly. If I run, and this was for inventory, they had 250 vehicles. So then the operation became 23 times 250, which my computer says is 5,750. So by the second time I ran the spreadsheet through this, I'd burned through all of my operations. So that was my $10 plan. So then I had to bump up to 20,000, which was another $6 or whatever. But again, that would only allow me to run that inventory 2 more times. And I needed to run this. I ran it a whole bunch of times the first day, just trying to get the scenario working. And then I would need to run it once a day for the month, right? So that's going to be 5,700. What is that? 5,750. We'll just say 30 days in a month. So 172,500 operations. So if we get on there, 172,000, I'm going to need the $268 plan. And that's just not feasible, right? And so I ended up doing the same thing in a Jupyter notebook for basically free. But it was good. It was good to know. So keep in mind that when you're in Make.com and Zapier, I think Zapier works the same way. Not sure what the pricing model is for n8n yet. I know I've been tinkering with another tool called Late Node that charges based on execution time. They're not quite as mature yet, but just keep in mind when you get in here, every one of these little, you basically every single one of these. Oh, there we go. Every one of these little dudes, that's one operation, that's one operation, that's one operation, that's one operation. Then when you get up here into this stuff, if you have, like in this particular case, I'm iterating over the categories. So in a given vehicle, this is feature categories, and so there might be 15 of these. So then it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 15 operations right there, right? So it was actually technically more than 23. And then on this one, I was operating over the finance options. There's like 6 finance options for each vehicle. So then there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So then that'd be 12 operations, and then this one times 6, so 18 operations for each car. So it adds up really fast. It adds up really fast. And that's why, you couldn't really use it for like an API backend. I wish you could. That'd be cool if you could just build out APIs arbitrarily with make.com. That'd be fantastic. But it would get expensive really fast, like super, super fast. Yeah. This was more of a prototype. My scenarios are typically much simpler than this. I see these creators on TikTok or social media that have like these really like very, very elaborate, like $5 to run this scenario. And I'm like, I don't build stuff that complex because you got to maintain it. Okay. Just catching up on my comments here. Oh, there's a lot of comments that come in the last couple minutes here. Hey, welcome to the chat. I am just going to say it out loud. I just broke 100 folks on the stream. That's a first for me. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you being here. My name's Aaron. I'm a senior software engineer. I do AI tech automation stuff. I do business consulting, technology strategy. I work on 2 problems in business. I work on change, not change management. I work on change and communication. I enable change management. And wow, we got so many comments here. I'm just trying to get caught up. Glorified asked, any good cheap service you recommend for POC agents apps with a custom domain? I would use like DigitalOcean. I don't know if you can run an agent on there. If you just have like something in Python and you're talking to agentic backend through an API, like DigitalOcean, $5 a month or something like that. Ricardo says LangGraph with Studio is pretty nice. I'll have to check that out. Mon says, what AI would you recommend for Anaplan model builder? I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for you. I'm not familiar with that. Anaplan model builder. What is that? Let's look it up. Anaplan modeling. Now we land on their marketing site. And I'm a generalist, so I scan this and I'm like, I have no idea what this is. So when we get that agent set up and running, this is what remember that scenario we were working on? This one back here. I would be super tempted once we get this up and running. I would run this through my assistant and be like, what is this? Can you explain this to me? Connected planning. This is not my field, so I don't have a great, it seems like there's a lot of complexity in here. So what I will say, for Mon P Food, what I would say is, reach out to me, and I would like to understand more about what some of your problems are. The way that I would approach this, coming into this organization where it looks like there's a lot of complexity, is I would start talking about what are your pain points? Where are the areas where you're spending a lot of time? And we can look at fairly low complexity, low risk scenarios where we can put a workflow or a scenario in there that will start saving you time and free up your time to focus on the harder problems in your business. Just at a glance, because I don't understand connection planning, I'm sure there are opportunities here, but there probably would need to have a conversation there. So if you want to reach out, we can have a chat and see where that goes. Kyle, can you build out the most useful process you think is possible? Did I miss part of? Let me just scroll back. Was there another comment in there I missed? What process do you mean? Can you build out the most useful process you think is possible? You just think like a general a scenario that I think is useful to lots of people. Let's come back to that. Give me some examples or a problem, and we'll talk about that. Dart. I would say you're in the right place. Start small. I would start small. Where are some data intake processes? Low risk. Okay, Alex, I want you to think low risk, low complexity. And then you don't have to hire me per se, but find uh, a reputable consultant in the space that can come in and give you some ideas, but also evaluate your business and say, okay, because lots of times I work with business owners where because we're laser focused sometimes on things like, oh, we're paying $300 for this software and we can get it for 200 over here. Meanwhile, we're a $7 million business and we're laser focused on those little costs because those are the things that we can control. When actually, I will come in and look at a business and say, okay, actually, what we should do is look at these processes where you've got 10 people doing this repetitive task, where we could take that process and reduce it from a 2-hour process to a 30-minute process. Say that there's 6 or 10 people to an hour and a half. That's going to add up very quickly. It's like 15 hours a day. That's what I call that high leverage. Where can we access high leverage activities in your business where we can just pull a lever a little bit and have a big impact instead of focusing on these like fixed these movable costs that we think we have control over, and these other costs that we think are fixed costs, but they're actually not now that we have AI and automation available to us. We're not going to replace people, but we're going to look at those areas and make adjustments so that you can free up the time of those people in your business to be more productive, to apply their ideas to your business. The best thing you can do is empower your staff because they already understand your business. Training people on your business. Remember, we talked about change and communication. Those are the two problems every business has. You should not be thinking about replacing staff. You should be thinking about, how do I empower my staff to do more in my business, because they already understand your business. They have your institutional knowledge. They understand your processes. They understand all of the dynamics and the nuance of what it is that makes your business unique. And if you can, and they have ideas. This is the thing. Your staff have ideas in your business that could have a big impact on your business, and they just don't have the ability to act on them. So that's what I will focus on. How can we empower your staff to do more with what you already have? Flow-wise, let's have a look at that one. If you have recommendations for tools, please let me know. I'm always looking at new stuff. Flow-wise AI. Is it this one here? Low-code LLM apps builder. Looks cool. Though they all kind of look like this, don't they? So I'm going to put it to you, Radu. Tell us, what is it about Flow-wise that makes it cool? And I'll definitely dig into it. Connor, what is an AI agent? We had a discussion about that before. AI agent is something that uses, I guess, AI and can do work and work autonomously. Though I don't ever let my AIs do anything autonomously. Not 100%. I'm usually in the mix somewhere. Parth says, start with n8n, connect it. Yeah. How do you know you're spending a lot of time on a tool that isn't worth it? Is it solving your problem or not? If the tool, a lot of these tools, we just looked at this one here, Flow-wise, backed by Y Combinator, so it looks like a startup. I'd have to find out what their value prop is. What is it that makes them special? Looks like you can connect multiple LLMs, agents and assistants, API, SDK. That's cool. I'll check it out. Looks fun. Is it solving your problem quickly? That's sort of the metric for me. Is it solving a problem, and are we getting it done? Or are you frustrated with it? That which could be multifaceted, might just be skills that are missing or something like that. But I would say if it's a tool that seems prominent in the AI space right now, it's probably worth understanding at least a little bit. Glorified Tales wants to talk more about Cassidy. Want to know what services you are offering. I'll come back to Cassidy in just a second, okay? Is Cassidy a custom website you created yourself? Looks awesome. No. Cassidy is another workflow automation tool, along with n8n. The one that came up yesterday was this one, Taskade. Cassidy is, again, another sort of agentic style system we're kind of looking at today. I'm going to have to come up with a really good use case. I think what we might do on future lives is we'll just tie into each one of these, and we'll build out the same Give me some ideas for a simple use case. And what we'll do is we'll build it out. We'll build out that use case on each of these tools and we'll evaluate it together and try and decide, all right, which one of these, did we run into any hitches where we couldn't solve the problem? I thought I had a window open with Cassidy here. I don't know where it went. There it is right there. Because every one of these seems to sort of promise that it's going to solve some problem really well for us. And they're all, for me, they're all kind of starting to blend together a little bit. So I need to get in a little bit, tinker with the buttons. And again, I'm horrible. I can sit through a quick YouTube video that's like, this is what this does. But I'm not the kind of person. I have friends who can go in and they'll just go read all the documentation and they'll just understand everything. And I can't do that. I have to force myself to read the documentation sometimes. I'm horrible for that. Until I know there's a piece in there that I need. As soon as I know there's a piece in the docs that I need, then I'll go do it. But I'm the kind of person that I'll dive in and I just start pushing buttons. What does this do? All chats, assistants, workflows, templates, knowledge base. This looks cool. So we can add some stuff up to the knowledge base. Then we can create a new assistant and have a chat with it. That's cool. And our assistants, we get to choose when we build out an assistant, do we use ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, or this data analyst default assistant? And then we can build out workflows. I mean, I think I would probably like this. But then I'm already at the place where I'm like, what does it cost? I want to know right away. Because I have so many $20 subscriptions right now, it's just sickening. Yeah, this is the one that was, so with 3,000 credits on a free trial, it's a free trial, so it's going to be available for 2 weeks. And then we're at $79 a month. So you know what? For $79 a month, it better be pretty good. It better solve a few of my problems because if it does a good job, I'll definitely buy into it. And I can see this being a little bit more maybe business focused where I'm building out some workflows and agents for my clients specifically that need workflows and knowledge base all in one. I'll have to play with it a bit. Okay, let me get back to some more of these comments. Cassidy does look good. I keep hearing about Cassidy. I see some people using it. It looks really good. I just need to dive in and commit. See if I can build something with it. I think we're just about getting caught up on the comments. Fantastic. Let's see. For those joining late, what is this workflow doing? We haven't really done anything yet. We're just sort of talking about tools. And people are pitching new tools in the chat, which is fantastic. We found out about FlowWise today. Another one that was mentioned was, where is it? Oh, I hope I haven't lost it already. n8n we were digging into for a minute. Anaplan was something else that came up today. Oh no, but that's not a tool. This is an industry. One of the folks in the chat is in this connection planning industry, so we were looking into that a little bit. And then LangChain came up. There's one more in here. What is it called? We talked a little bit about some of those tools. Taskade. Nope, I lost it. Oh, geez, I hope I didn't close that window. Now I'm going to have to go back and find it. I'll have to go back through the chats. All right. So Joshy says, I've been put in charge of supply chain for my company. Any interesting AI and automation tools? I think all of them would apply for you. So whenever you're thinking about what tool should I be using, the first question you should be asking is, what problem am I trying to solve? What are my pain points? Whenever the first meeting I have with any client ever, my first question is always, what is the most painful part of your day? What is the most awful thing you have to do every day? That's one I want to know. And then what is the other one where we assume we have these fixed costs of how much time we're putting into a process? Are there some of those processes where we can offload some of that, we can reduce the amount of time on this process in a big way across your business so your staff can do more interesting things, be more productive? Not just do more of the same thing, but actually apply some of their ideas. Your staff have ideas in your business about how to do things better. They're just too busy with the stuff they're doing now. So one of the highest leverage activities you can do is free up some of that time and tap into those ideas That's a really great use for automation and AI. Josh, you feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat about some of your use cases, brainstorm some ideas. Have you used Pythagora AI? I have not. There's another one. Let's look at it. Pythagora AI. Build internal tools with artificial intelligence. Looks interesting. Whenever I look at these, I'm always wanting to know what's the value prop? What does it do differently? Examples, that's what I want. What does it do differently? LLM prompt eval enables developers to evaluate prompts on different LLMs multiple times in parallel. That's interesting. So if you're evaluating the performance, lens tool, custom HR selection tool, deep thoughts, there's some cool stuff here. I think this is what's really interesting about the space is everything is moving so fast right now. Optimizing, A/B testing, market copy. It's pretty cool. I have a startup I'm working on. I'll talk about another time where we're building a testing platform for some of this stuff. So if you build AI agents or chatbots or this different things, you can put tests in place to verify they're doing their job correctly. Self-hosted n8n free. It's free in that you don't pay for the software, but you have to maintain it. So always take that into account. Dave says, can you build one that can post items on eBay? What's the API look like for eBay? Let's actually, that first thing I would do, ignore this scenario. It's overly complex. Let's go back to a really simple one. Not that one. Let's just go a brand new scenario. I have just all these scenarios in here. Is there an eBay module? Let's pretend that we're just, I don't know, basic trigger. That's fine. And then we'll go eBay. There's a community eBay module right here. So that tells me that eBay has an API, which I've never played with before, but I mean, they've been around so long, they would have to. But yeah, I imagine it would be possible to build something that would post items on eBay. Shopify is going to have an API. I don't know, whatever other systems. I even use Cursor sometimes, or like AI code writing tools to sort of build out faux APIs using like Playwright, which is a browser automation tool to interact with websites that don't have APIs. I do that on a fairly regular basis. Hey, Gail, thanks for stopping by. Dave, have you tried Reloom? I have not. This is what I love about doing these lives is I get all these recommendations. You come in and you give me all your secrets, and I get to learn about all these new tools because there's only so many hours in the day. Websites designed and built faster with AI. This looks great. Sitemaps, wireframes, style guide. I will definitely look into this. I don't build a lot of websites, but when I do build a site, I actually know a few people who could use something like this. They do a lot of, I would love to see more AI tools in the design space. Again, not to replace anybody, but if I could, put in an SVG that I liked and reliably come up with variations that were the same style, I think that'd be fantastic. I could use that a lot. Just catching up on my comments here. What kind of extensive tasks can the agents perform? I tend not to do overly extensive stuff if I can help it. I try to keep my tasks simple, but you can automate a lot. You can do quite a bit. Verifying stuff, notifying people when things happen, drafting, messaging, things like that. Do you push scenarios to GitHub? You could. I don't. I don't have anything in GitHub right now, but I mean, you could source control that without too much trouble. Yeah, for sure. Joshy says, live has been very motivational. Please keep on doing them. Notifications are on. Perfect. I'm glad you're subscribed. Man, I'm really grateful for everybody that came back. We had a catastrophic implosion of the live about 45 minutes ago. It just stopped abruptly, and we're back. We're back, and we've got so many great conversations and questions happening. This is fantastic. You can find a recap. I post all of my live recaps on my YouTube. I think I'm not supposed to say that. I don't know. Does TikTok get mad about that or something? Doesn't matter too much, but you can find them. I'll have it posted either tonight or tomorrow. We're just sort of looking at tools today. We're looking at different stuff. I had intended to build out something with n8n, but we haven't got that far. We're just kind of chatting right now. But yeah, jump on my YouTube. I appreciate you following along. I just kind of meander through stuff and like learn new things. This has been the, what's the word for that? Kind of the pillar of my career in software and in tech. The last 25 years, just learning stuff, finding new things, trying things out, and learning stuff. So I really appreciate your contributions to the chat. That's fantastic. What's the best hub to find make scenarios? I don't even know. I'm sure they're out there. If you know of a scenario, if you know of a place where people are sharing their make.com scenarios, that'd be pretty cool. Nelson asks, do you use Zapier too, or are you strictly on Make? I also use Zapier. I don't have, usually I've used both. I prefer Make to a degree because I just find it to be simple. I don't use it. I don't compare them on pricing or any of that kind of stuff because I find them to be relatively similar. And when things in either system would get fairly expensive, I've already moved on to something cheaper anyway, some kind of programming tool. I like make.com because I find it intuitive and easy to use, and it does pretty much everything I want. So, but again, I do use Zapier, and it does have a few cool features that I wish were in Make. The flow control in Zapier I find to be a little bit better. But again, at the end of the day, it solves my problem, so I'm not. Either one would be fine. Eddie says, I'm building a website with Rust right now. Sounds fun. Rust looks fun. I've only tinkered with it in a very limited fashion. Glorified, can you talk about the services you're currently offering? So I have a few different services. Typically what I will do is when I work with a business, I will come in and make recommendations for how to systemize processes, free up staff time. I do so on a consulting basis. I do build out automations for organizations. I'll come in and build out custom automations, and we do automation maintenance. Though, depending on your organization, if it makes sense, if you have somebody that's already technical internally, then one of the things I will do is offer a service where we can come in and do training. I'll come in and do training on tools. I did a post on this, was it this morning or whatever? If you're a fairly large organization and you want to lean into automation, you want to lean into AI in your business a little bit, and you're not really sure who's going to take that in-house. Again, you don't have to do this, but I call it a high leverage activity. I'd find some young tech person that's having trouble finding a job right now, and I'd scoop them up, and I would have someone come in and train them on stuff on the tech side, and then give them some time to learn the business and kind of let them loose on some of those processes and just move those levers. And so that's one of the things I'll do. If you have somebody in your organizations who's a little bit savvy already, then I can come in and just be like, hey, instead of me just learning your business for the next 6 months and like telling you what to do, I'll just teach you how to use these tools, and I'll provide advanced automation support. So as you're learning and building your skill set, then you have direct access to me over Slack, and I can help. We can jump in a call and I can help you unblock you when you're running into scenarios you're trying to build out and not quite sure how to fix. So that's my primary service right now, is more of a consultant. Let me get, I saw a bunch of comments go by. I'm just going to get caught up here. So Science Technology says they're a hub to download awesome Make and Zapier scenarios. That'd be cool. Is there anything out there? I feel like we need to build this now. We need to build a place. Is there a place out there that's community, make.com, Zapier scenarios? Is there anything out there right now? There's not even like a GitHub. Like, I feel like we need to put something together now, right? We need to build this. I think we just found our next project. We should put something together, maybe like a little website, and connect it to GitHub. We could like build out a couple little automations. We could have a newsletter, the whole thing. That'd be kind of fun. All right, thoughts about, I'm not really sure. I'm sorry, Nilka, I'm not quite sure what that is. I'm not quite sure what that is. I'll look into it. I have to get my Google out. Oh, it made me nervous. Last time I changed tabs on this, my live crashed. Um, oh, it looks like a coin. I don't have opinions on crypto. Uh, most of it's a grift anyway. I think there's probably practical uses for cryptocurrencies or that kind of stuff, but I haven't seen them yet. E says build something. Yeah, I think we should. Casey, can we get pre-sale tickets to evaluate prospective client website, any use cases for scraping the site? Absolutely. We were working on that on the live yesterday. I scrape, or rather crawl, client websites to do intake research. I keep calling it recon, not recon. I'm not reconning my clients. I'm researching my clients. So before I have a meeting, I'll do research. But yeah, scraping websites, absolutely. And the tool we were using for that yesterday, oh, I forget the name of it again. Fire crawl. I keep saying it. It sounds like a third level spell. Fire crawl. But we used this yesterday, and it's fantastic. You can just sort of give it the URL, and it just goes and like grabs stuff. It's pretty fantastic. All right. Michael says, here's an idea: automation marketplace for Make. I'm surprised you can do apps on Make, so you can actually take, like, let's assume for a second that this was a scenario we wanted to sell to somebody, like an endpoint or something. There is a way in here to, I'm sure there's a marketplace or something. You can create an app and then sell it or license it or whatever. So, people can subscribe to it. But yeah, just like a repo for like free make.com scenarios. Totally cool. Ambassador, as a software developer, do you code all the time? I still write code, or more accurately, I have Cursor write my code. But yeah, I write code lots. Typically when I get to, so this is one of those scenarios where in make.com, when I have, let's pull up that really complicated scenario. Discard. So this one here for this, when I was prototyping this inventory pipeline for this particular dealer, not this one, this one. And when I realized what the actual costs of running this pipeline against 200 to 300 vehicles was over and over and over again, I just turned around and rebuilt this in a Jupyter notebook. So it cost me nothing except for the AI parts. Like, I can process a few hundred vehicles for next to nothing. Whereas this was costing me, every time I ran it, it was costing me about $5 in make.com. So I will typically pivot. So that's when I write code. Is when I hit the limitations of a system that I'm using. I use serverless systems a lot. I haven't gone into that on TikTok or my live. That's not really my focus. I don't do a lot of like developer focused stuff, because my business is, I've spent the last decade of my career in software focusing on studying business and technology strategy. And also communication tools to simplify understanding complex systems building easy communications, is like one-pagers, basically one-pagers where we can talk about some of these things and across a whole organization make meaningful decisions, whether we're in finance or tech or the C-suite or whatever that looks like. We can have meaningful conversations about our organizations moving forward. And so there's a lot of, and I focus on the strategy side. And at the same time, I recognize the technology gap in that a lot of people are interested in technology. A lot of people are wanting to incorporate this tech in their businesses, but I work with businesses that are just like completely unaware that these things exist. And sometimes they're dabbling a little bit. They just don't know how to get the next level of features out of whatever it is that they're using. And sometimes I'll just work with businesses that are like, they're operating in the same paradigm they were in 2003. They're using the same spreadsheet that they were using in 2003, an Excel spreadsheet that they're emailing around or something. And just like helping them sort of level up, get to the next paradigm. Michael says, check Sell Your AI. That's cool. .com. It looks, sellyour.ai. Okay, that's cool. Buy, sell, ready-made automations. Nice. So that's kind of fun. You still have to implement it, but it's definitely worthwhile. Or makemarket.io. Thanks for the recommendation. I got a whole bunch of tabs open today, so we got a bunch of stuff to dig into. Apps for Make. Find apps for Make that no one has. And there's a Discord community. I wonder if there's like a rating system so you can rate these. So cool. This is really cool. I'll have to dig into that. Yemi asks, would you use lead generation to find leads or to sell your AI agent? I don't use AI for lead generation or necessarily like you can. I see people experimenting with that. Um, Whenever there's a system that is communicating with a client or a potential client, I want to be in the loop, and I know that makes me the bottleneck, but I consider communication to be in the high risk. Uh, my fear would be that somebody would come in interested in something that the AI told them, and I had no idea what they were talking about. And I'm sure there'd be ways around that. But I think connection and relationships are important to me. So your business is your relationship with your customers. If you're building a personal brand or whatever that looks like, if you're in the home service business, your name is on the side of the van, right? And I know everybody wants to think about like faceless businesses and corporations, but we don't have any loyalty to these unless you're a mega, like maybe Nike or Coca-Cola or something, right? But if you're building a business, then for me, your integrity, your reputation, and the connection, all of those things are important. So I'm not putting an AI in the middle of that. That doesn't make sense for me. That's not to say that you can't, maybe pre-warm leads or have chatbots on your site answering questions or doing some of that kind of stuff. Probably makes sense. I will personally be cautious with those things. Let me see. Atomic Agent is the best for devs. There's another recommendation. Let's see that. Atomic Agent. Yeah, and that's fine. This is something immediately it's on GitHub, so we need to pull it down and probably spin it up on our own somewhere. Atomic Agents. And what does this run on? I've got it zoomed in, so it looks like I don't see a website link. I'd have to dig into this. If it's code, I will use it, but I'll probably look for something that's hosted and managed first, just because that makes more sense for me. Most of the time, if I'm just prototyping something. How come there are multiple gray bars on that make.com scenario you showed? How do they work? Okay, so those are, so what's going on here is there's that's called an iterator. So what they're outlining here is that there are multiple things happening. The gray bar just means that this is going to happen multiple times before it moves on to the next node. In this particular case, it's iterating over an array of categories. So I know for a fact, and I know that's hard to see. Let me, if I can bump that up bigger. So if I hover over this categories, this particular scenario was inventory data. So in this vehicle, because this is inventory for a vehicle for a car dealership, and the data is there's a lot of data, and even in the categories are going to be feature categories for this, and so I wanted to summarize those categories, and so I needed to loop over each of those items and collect them. And so that's what this iterator is doing. Sorry, that zooms in out real fast. It's going to loop over those each time. And then for each one of those ones, what I'm doing is I'm aggregating that data into some text. I'm aggregating the text from those features. And then at the end of that particular branch, then I'm setting a variable called features that has that aggregated text. So it's just performing that operation multiple times. I can zoom out a bit. And that same thing happens down here with pricing information. Again, it loops over, it does some math, and then it aggregates that into a variable. And then the very last one here, this is a special route here in make.com. So how this works is that in make.com, when you have a router, you can do this thing where I've got this is aggregating the features. I think this has a bunch of specs and different information here. So it sets a variable. This one at the top sets a variable here. Sorry, I'm going to get this so you can see it properly. This one at the top sets a variable here. Then this next branch down here also sets a variable. Then this next branch does a bunch of operations on the pricing and sets a variable. This one does a bunch of operations on the financing options and sets a variable. And then there's a cool feature in make.com. If you have variables set in each of these branches at the end of the branch, then you can connect your router. Your router will do this branch first, then this branch, then this branch, then this branch. And then if you have an array aggregator, that's what this node is right here, an array aggregator connected to the router, then you can aggregate all of those variables that were set in each of those branches into a get multiple variables. All of those variables are collected in this node right here. So I've sort of scooped up. I've set a variable here I want for later, and I've set another one here I want for later. I've set another one here I want for later. I've set one here I want for later. And then I scoop all of those variables up, and then I can use all of those variables in my final two chunks of my make.com scenario. I hope that makes sense. No clue why you're avoiding the question. Did I avoid a question? Sorry about that. If you wouldn't mind repeating the question, I'll do my best to answer it. Is there a GitHub repo for scenario something free? That'd be cool. Do you think node-based coding is the future? I don't think it's going away. I think probably it makes things more accessible. And that there's a really good point in that if you think about that. We have software developers come in sometimes and they're like, oh, I could just write this in code. Like we look at this scenario, if I can get this to cooperate. If I look at this scenario here in the my scenario in make.com here, and I did inevitably end up writing this in code because it was cheaper. But the reason I started prototyping this in make.com is because that's accessible. It's accessible and it's intuitive. So I could get in here really quickly and I could start building something really quickly. I don't need to set up infrastructure for this. I don't need to maintain any code for this. I can just get it in and build it out. And the great thing about this is I can hand this off to somebody. I can hand this scenario off to somebody. I can export it and give it to someone else. They don't need coding skills in order to do this. I can train them how to run this. If I write this in, like, say, Python, right, then all of a sudden I've narrowed down the pool of people to which I can hand this off to. And I'm not working with, I am a software engineer, but that's not I don't spend a lot of time writing software. I still write software every day for my own purposes or for my clients' purposes, but I try not to because I think you can get a lot done. It's not that software's going away. These are just different paradigms, right? Traditional software engineering is an older paradigm, and again, it's not going away. It still powers the whole internet. But this is a new paradigm that lives on top of traditional software engineering. I think visualization is a big upside, and that comes back to our two problems, right? Change and communication. Those are the two problems that every organization has: change and communication. And when you're communicating something, if you can paint a picture, if you have something to look at, I like to point at things. That's why I love this whimsical thing here. We found this the other day. I love this because I can point at it. I can point at things and I can draw on it. And we can all have a conversation about this particular piece right here, right? That's why these communication tools are so powerful. And I think that's what makes something like make.com really powerful, in that we can all look at it and point at it and we can have a conversation about it. And it makes sense because we can see it. I think coding is definitely, you can just sit down and start writing code, but I don't know necessarily that it makes sense for everyone. Code makes sense for me. I get it. It's like an infinite puzzle where you can put all the pieces together. And then the other half of the puzzle is about how to make it simple, how to keep it simple so you can maintain it over time. And that's what one of the things that make.com gives to us, even as software engineers, is that they're doing half the work because we're not hosting the infrastructure on this. We don't have to spin anything up. We don't have any repositories. We don't need to whatever. Just boom, we have a working something, even if it's just a prototype, right now. We get it right now. We get value out of it right now. We're paying money for it. But when you think about the total cost of ownership in terms of how much time you've put into something based on what you're getting out of it, this is very quick and easy and, I guess, scalable, you could say, in that way. Ed asks, real world use. Do you mean a real world use for just make.com scenarios? This one was real world, but I'll typically do stuff like moving things around. Here's another example. Just a simple one for this one, listing parser. This is what a typical scenario looks like that I'll build. This is actually still a little bit more complicated than most because I'm doing a few things here. But this is a real world scenario where I have a real estate agent who wants to just be posting, wants to simplify the process of posting listings on Facebook. And the problem they're running into is that they're copy pasting stuff out of PDFs all day. And so this particular scenario allows them to just drop a zip file in a Google Drive, and it has a PDF of the listing, and it has photos. And then from here, what it does is this top branch just unzips that zip file, uploads those photos to a free service online, and then collects the URLs. The second branch of this scenario uploads that zip file, and then it just runs it through the PDF. It runs through ChatGPT just to summarize it and build up a Facebook post. And then again, because we've got variables that are set at the end of each of these nodes, then we just collect those variables on the last branch. And the last branch uploads the draft social media post to, in this case, I'm using high level as a draft social media post. And then they get a notification. There's a workflow automation within the high level platform that sends them a notification that says, hey, you've got a new post draft ready to go. So then they can go pick where they want to send it and just publish it from there, schedule it or whatever. So this is a real world scenario. And so I think it took me, I want to say, an hour and a half to build this in make.com. They post anywhere from, I'm going to say the agent would be posting on or going through this process manually, anywhere from 4 to 20 times a week. And so manually, this would probably be and again, they're copy pasting things and typing or whatever. So it's like at least anywhere from 6 to 20 hours a week, depending on how busy they are. Some weeks less, some weeks more. So in an hour and a half, I've reduced the amount of work that they have to do anywhere up to 10 plus hours a week. And so this is a perfect case. I could have written this in code. It would have taken me a lot longer. And then I need to host it somewhere and maintain it somewhere. And when it breaks, I need to go fix it and find yada, yada. And the other thing is I can export this and I can just import it into their own make account. And it's pretty battle tested. It just works. So this is a real world scenario. Okay. Make is the future. Could be. I'm not an engineer and just started using it. Easy to understand. I think it's it makes things accessible, right? Oh, that was the question I missed. Science and technology. Do you try open source solutions like n8n or Apache Flow? I will. Typically, I'll just pay them to host the infrastructure because that just saves me time. And Sylvan says, cool, can you share that with me? I can probably give you, I built this specifically for a customer. So I could I could probably share this. I'll just check with them first. But yeah, I don't have a problem with that if it's helpful. I think another one that we did that's really cool is I really like high level for that, and that you can just like send in a text message with a picture and then create automations from that. You could do that with Twilio in this too, but high level has that nice conversations and stuff. It's kind of cool once you're doing stuff with social media and SMS and stuff like that. You could start to do some fun stuff. All right, we're gonna go 10 more minutes before we wrap up here. We didn't really get very far with our automation, did we? We're just sort of talking tech tools this afternoon. It's kind of fun. And 2-part live. If you're on the live, all of my lives go to YouTube. So if you wanted to go back and sort of catch the recap, We meandered all over the place today, looking at a few different tools, lots of conversation. It's great. I appreciate everybody who come out. All of the suggestions. We learned about lots of new stuff. There's a few more things for me to dig into. I'm looking really hard at Cassidy right now. It looks kind of cool. And then n8n. I might have to. I use Make still quite a bit, but I'm going to dig more into n8n because I've seen some cool stuff you can do with it. And that's kind of the problem is just there's too many tools out there right now. It's hard to be like, what's the best one? It's like, well, what's your use case? What problem are you trying to solve? Because I'm sure you could solve your problem well with a couple of different tools without too much trouble. But it is interesting to understand the different value propositions, some of these different AI tools that are coming out. And they're coming out left, right, and center because AI has made it easy to sort of build out cool stuff nowadays. So yeah, interesting. Super interesting. You can find my YouTube channel if you go to, just click on the link in my bio. You'll get to my link tree and there's a YouTube icon up there. You can find me there. What is your favorite feature for someone getting started? Just ease of access or the ability to, just the intuitiveness of it. That's why, again, like one of the reasons I like make.com is I find it very intuitive. And again, this is a very advanced scenario. Most of my scenarios will typically look like this, just something very simple. Just simple. In this particular case, this was a scenario where this is connected to a custom GPT. So a custom GPT can fire off an action. This will just do a couple things and then return a response. Most of my scenarios end up looking like this. They're just simple. They just connect two things together. Yeah. Yeah, just a few more minutes before we shut down. Any last questions, salutations, any tools, any last minute tools that you want to recommend? Any agentic frameworks or SaaS tools that you've played with lately that you find really cool? Feel free to recommend them in the chat and we'll dig into them. I think what we're going to do is next time, we did find there are some folks out there, the Make market for sharing your Make app. So it's too bad. I guess we're not going to build that one. That's okay. It's cool to know this is out there and it'll be fun to sort of tie into this and see. It's cool that there's a marketplace where you can share your stuff. And then, well, when I see they price it based on executions. Interesting. Interesting. And then Replit. And I have seen Replit. The idea that you can build an app. I don't know how much of this is another one of those ones I've looked at it a couple times. Automate your own automated web developer. I don't know how much, I don't know what the limitations are in here. One of the problems is, one of the problems I run into is that because I'm a software developer, I find I hit the limitations of some of these tools very quickly because my use cases are typically, or not that my use cases are advanced necessarily, but I've already got an idea in my mind of the tools that I want to use. And so the way that these tools will make money that I've seen is they'll either charge you by the number of tokens, the number of AI tokens you're using, or in the case of tools like make.com, you pay based on credits or whatever. By the time you're starting to sort of scale a little bit, it gets very expensive. I'm super cheap, so I typically won't land in a tool like this because, you know, when I get into the pricing side of things, even this $15 per month, $25 worth of monthly credits, a lot of times I don't even have to look at their credits to know that I'm going to burn through $15 worth of credits in like an hour. Like I just am. So then I'm like, I will typically just use Cursor and I'll use something like Next.js, which is React. You can do React in the front end and the back end. And I'll just deploy it on Netlify. I build most of my apps like if I'm building a custom app, if I'm at that place, I'll just do it like that because I can build out React front end, back end really quickly with Cursor, even though I'm not a React dev, but I am now, I guess. And I can get it online really quick. And then from there, I can talk to back-end database like Supabase or Amazon Web Services or different things like that. That's the only reason I haven't dug too deep into like Replit and Bolt.dev and some of these, because I already know that I already run into the barriers. I already run into some of the limitations of the system very quickly. And that's, yeah. So Latoxi says credit usage is typically hard to estimate for the average user. And that's an annoying part of their business model, is that you don't exactly know how much it's going to cost you until you sort of already bought in. You're sort of already tied in, and like, then you got to make the choice: pay them more money, or do you try and find something else? It is an unfortunate side of the industry right now. Something I don't run into as much, because I can build out my own stuff, and technically you could too, um, if you know the right side. If it would be worthwhile. There's still, what, 50 people here. If it's worthwhile, I would 100% be fine with doing a live where we just tie into an editor with Cursor and just build out a really simple React app with next.js. It's going to be a little bit technical because we're going to be in the code, but I mean, the AI is going to be writing the code for us. I'd be happy to tie into that on a live if that would interest anyone. Just let me know. Mick says, try my tool. What tool is that? What is it? Sounds good. Do it. We can do that. We'll do that. I think we'll come up with a use case for our for an app that we want to build. Mick says, my tool builds Next.js projects. Right on. Cursor is not free because you pay for, again, sort of the credits thing. You pay $20 and you get 500 fast credits, and then you get slow credits, slow executions after that. So after you've paid your $20 on the free tier, I think once you've used the free credits, then it just stops working. You do have to have a subscription. But I find that the slow, I burn through my 500 queries like super fast, and then it's not the end of the world. All right, Mick, I am going to open up your tool here. I'm going to have a quick look at it. It says Solana in the thing. If it has, it's a Web3 UI and one prompt. I'll look at it. Not sure what it does yet. Powerful features, intelligent program analysis, production ready. I think you're already in this place where I've been looking at your website for 5 seconds and I have no idea what it does. Features. You have to connect a wallet, so you sort of lost me there. I'm probably not going to do that. All right. A couple more minutes here. Definitely, if you're interested in what we're talking about, hit that follow button. I think it's up at the top. And we're definitely going to, we'll tie into that. We'll do a couple things. We didn't get as far into n8n as I'd hoped to. There's 2 tools here definitely I want to tie into. n8n, we had a request for that yesterday. Somebody to say they were having an API problem in n8n. I'd love to tie into that. Then Cassidy, I'm looking at Cassidy. It looks like there's some stuff in here that might be pretty cool. I don't know of a use case just yet, but I'm sure I can find one. Casey says, is there a way to scrape multiple websites at once to compare them? What are you comparing? What exactly is it? Like specific data, like prices, or are you just comparing some overall detail about the page? It would really depend on what you're looking for. So the short answer is yes, but what are you comparing? That's the question. Deepseek.com. I always tell people I don't need a smarter model. GPT-3.5 is smart enough for what I do most of the time. Or 4.0 mini. I'm usually not giving my AI hard problems. I'm usually giving my AI really easy problems. What would give us access to multiple LLMs premium? Not sure. Because my business is in the AI and AI, automation consulting and stuff, and I use these tools, I have subscriptions to them. So it makes business sense. $20 a month for a few different accounts. I have that. If you don't have access to that, I'm not sure. If I find a tool that solves my problem, then I will just pay for it, if it makes sense. Casey, strengths and weaknesses of content topic coverage. Oh, I see. Yeah, you could definitely do that. I think, I hope you'll reach out, Casey. I'd love to discuss some of your use cases a little bit further. I already do this a little bit with a few things. If you have, especially if you have like an assistant that is trained on your idea of what strengths and weaknesses are, and then it becomes fairly trivial to just pull data in with a um, with some kind of workflow and run it through that and do analysis, like basically sentiment analysis. In my opinion, that's a fantastic use case for AI, and I do that quite a bit. Science and Technology says DeepSeek is Chinese. I've got a surprise for you. Lots of stuff is Chinese. Cassidy, this thing know my name, or is it just a coincidence? The website is my name. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. This tool, Cassidy AI, we were just looking at it. It's like an automation tool for AI assistance and workflows tailored to your team. Just one of the tools we're looking at. We're looking at n8n today, Cassidy, and then this other one was mentioned yesterday, Taskade. Looks like a new tool. And there was another one mentioned earlier. I have to go back in the comments and find it because I already forgot what it is. And we're just kind of comparing, looking at AI tools and just chatting mostly. Free says, your content is gold. I'm glad you're getting value out of it. That's fantastic. Hope you'll drop a follow. We're going to shut her down maybe just 2 more minutes. If there's any last comments. If you're just joining the live, we just went over some tools today. You can find the recap of this video. There's actually two lives today after our first one got interrupted tragically about 2 hours in. But these will both be on my YouTube. You can find that link in the bio. If you go to my link tree, there's a YouTube icon there. You can find me over there. And I put all my live replays on YouTube, so you can go back and just follow us as we meander through all of these AI tools. I think when we come back next time, I'm going to try and build something out a little bit in n8n, and then go back and find out who is somebody mentioned. I forget who it was having trouble with n8n. I need to dig into this a little bit because it looks really cool. And I know they have some features like the online form submission is really cool, and some other stuff. And try and find some practical use cases for that in our business, so we can build stuff out quickly. And then we'll come back on another live, probably this week. We'll come back and we'll crack open an editor. We'll use Cursor, which I still use regularly. And maybe just on the live stream, maybe we'll just brainstorm. I'll put a video out this week. We'll brainstorm a couple ideas for like a really easy build, something we can just build from scratch. And we'll crack open Next.js, and we'll crack open our editor, and we'll just build it. We'll pretend it's a startup and see how quickly we can bring this. I've got a couple ideas we could use actually right out of the gate, but we'll build something out. So if that interests you, definitely drop a follow. And I promise that live will come up this week. We'll tie into some more of that stuff. Legit says, what was the other task site? Was it this one here, Cassidy? Or was there another site on the list here somewhere? I'll just go through the names here. Replit, which was app builder. And then we had, let's see, Reloom, which was building websites. Pythagoras AI, forget what that one does already. Flowwise, low-code LLM app builder. Let's see, we looked at make.com, LangGraph. Framer, which is a website tool, lovable.dev, n8n, Whimsical, which is a graphing tool, Taskade, and then Cassidy. I don't know if it was any of those. We might have lost it. I'm going to sign off there. I smell soup cooking in the other room, and my belly's starting to growl. Oh, I see Taskade. There you go. This one. Yeah, I meant to tie into that today. We didn't get very far into it, but I'd like to tie into some of these and see AI agents, AI automation, tasks, and projects. It looks like more of a project management kind of tool. It looks really cool. All right, we're going to sign off there. I hope everybody has a great evening or morning or afternoon, depending where you are. And thanks again for dropping in on my Saturday afternoon live. And I hope to see you on the next one.